Race, in my view, comes out of a combination, sort of a confluence of two important things. One is cognitive confusion, and the other is an almost sinister, cynical contrivance of that confusion. So the first part is more or less innocent. You know, we're all prone to cognitive confusion around lots of things. The brain is quite susceptible to seeing things that aren't there and then running with it. And that's part of what happens with race. It takes advantage of our desire and proclivity to dichotomize, to bifurcate, to categorize things. We are very good at this and that, even when there isn't a this and that. Another way to think about it is, and this is particularly useful in thinking about race, is that we very quickly attach deeper meaning to surface distinctions. One of my favorite ways of illustrating that is this. So most people, almost to the person actually, when shown this and asked which two substances are most alike, will immediately say the two substances that are the same color. And that, it seems very defensible in some ways. When told, however, that actually it's the brown substance and one of the white substances that are alike, then the correction gets made. And people say, oh, I bet I know why that is. And I say, well, why is that? I bet one of them is sugar, and the other is brown sugar, and the other is salt, which is actually the case. And we know that the only difference between brown sugar and white sugar is that molasses was removed from one to make it look a little bit different and taste just a little bit different. But they are elementally alike, whereas white sugar and salt are different in almost every way, molecularly, in terms of where they come from, in terms of how we use them, etc. This is what happens with race. People at a certain time in our history, 1600s into the 1700s, through the 1800s, started to be captivated by the idea that surface distinctions between people meant something deeper than just the surface. What happened that was very unfortunate is that ascendancy of thinking in that way about all things, including human beings, got coupled up with a very desperate desire on the part of the pioneers of what was to be America to justify an inconsistency in the way they were going about their business. Because on the one hand, the folks who were the pioneers really wanted to believe in a principle of equality between all people. On the other hand, they were treating some people who certainly looked like people in very many ways in a very unequal way, in a savagely unequal way. The idea of race that was growing up at that same time supplied a very wonderful strategy and rationale for continuing to treat people in an unequal way in a society that was to be based on inequality.